And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live stream from the Women of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling. Today we're going to respond to a video that I was sent, and this one is called Dan Savage. Okay, so this must be a famous guy of some sort that knows a lot about relationships, and we'll see, right? I've seen this video real quick right now, but it's 2 minutes, so it's gonna be very quick. And he says why monogamy is ridiculous. Now, in many ways, that kind of goes hand in hand with this channel, but I want to clarify my viewpoints on the things that he talks about. So let's just go through the video.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to rethink love and commitment. 60 years ago was when we decided that men had to be monogamous too. Men were not monogamous for all of recorded human history. Men had concubines and whores. And 60 years ago, straight relationships began to become more egalitarian, and it was less of a property transaction, a marriage.
So let's just start with what he's talking about here. For all of recorded human history, men had concubines and whores. Okay? Men were not monogamous. 60 years ago when we decided that men had to be monogamous too. Isn't that interesting? So he's basically saying that for thousands of years, thousands upon thousands and thousands of years, men have not been monogamous. Okay, well, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Well, it's a bad thing if they're unable to control their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Then they're not really being men, are they? Because that's the definition of masculinity, at least on our channel and as part of our movement. If you can't control yourself, if you can't control the hardest thing for men to control is their sexuality and their thoughts, okay? And if they manage to control that, they're part of like the 0.1% of the entire population. So it's not normal to be able to control those emotions and those thoughts, but that is what we should be striving towards. That's what we should be moving towards over time, Evolution is basically men who've been, masculine in traits in terms of survival traits, but feminine in terms of their lack of ability to control their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Yeah, that's a problem. That's not a good thing. We want to get to a point where men are not only masculine in terms of traits, the way that, society deems what masculine is, but that they're also masculine when it comes to their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, especially their sexual behavior. They should be able to control themselves, correct? Right? It's ridiculous to think otherwise. However, for millennia, men have not been monogamous, which means that there's been, what could you say, inequality in many ways, okay? In other words, in this context, men have done things that have not been with the woman in mind, okay? Which means that they've slept around, and that has been the norm, okay? Which is horrible, in my opinion, because that means that they're leaving their wife behind in order for them to do whatever they're doing out there. Go to parties, go to strip clubs, go to whores, go to, go to the neighbor's house, whatever it is. It is a horrible thing to leave your wife behind, especially when you've got kids. She's got to take care of the kids, and you're also betraying your wife. It's horrible. Very often it was also out in the open, but it's still horrible if she didn't want you to do it as a man. Does that make sense? Like, you as a woman, you understand this. You don't want to be left behind, and you don't want to know that he is out there with other women, especially when he's not providing correctly and enough for you. So there's scarcity there, and there's no emotional fulfillment for women. That's a problem. We've got to solve that. Because if you don't solve that, then you're not going to be able to get the level of happiness, joy, and bliss that you could get as a man if you somehow manage to fulfill the emotional needs and provide abundance in terms of fulfilling those emotional needs for your woman or women, okay? So let's keep going from there.
For all of recorded human history, men had concubines and whores. And 60 years ago, straight relationships began to become more egalitarian, and it was less of a property transaction, a marriage had been a property transaction for most of recorded human history.
Okay, so that's important to remember as well. Marriage has been a property transaction for most of recorded human history. What does that mean? Well, it basically means that people got married because of a unification of family trees, okay? They more so got married in order for the families and tribes to become stronger, okay? It wasn't that you got married for love in the past. Now, very often it would become love because when you have sex with someone continuously and consistently over a long period of time, you begin to have an emotional involvement with each other that's kind of strong, okay? So love very often was a fact as a result when you got married, but that's not why they entered into marriage. That's not why, it was more of a family thing and a property, joining of families together and families' properties and families together, if that makes sense. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing that people become stronger through familial bonds because of marriage. Bringing two families that are completely separate together and making them one. That would be awesome. That's like making basically the whole world a family over time in many ways. But at the same time though, well, which one's best? Should we marry because of property and because our parents said so? Or should we marry because of love? Because we actually want to be with that person and we're excited about being with that person. I say that there should be a mix of both. Not just the one that we're doing today where there's just because of love, because love fades over time if you don't understand how it works, okay? But if you manage to have that, awesome, together with the unification of families and also, creating a stronger and stronger tribe, awesome. We got to have both.
And it became a union of two equals. And at that moment, instead of deciding to allow women to have the same sort of freedom and leeway that men did, we decided to let men have the same limitations, impose the same limitations that women had.
So in one sentence, even though he doesn't say it, I knew exactly what he's saying. He's basically saying that, we should just give women the same freedom. Like in the past, we didn't allow them to have that kind of freedom. Because it was only men that were allowed to do it, and if women were found out to be adulterers, oh my gosh, they should be stoned. Like, do you see how that's completely, cognitive dissonance, like basically going, an oxymoron, whatever all those terms are. Do you understand what I mean? It's horrific that men basically, it's hypocritical. They're being adulterers, and then they're expecting their woman to become, to be holy and to make sure that she's not sleeping with anyone else and that she's, being at home and doing what the man told her to do. Right? So I get that he's, trying to progress by saying, we had leeway as men, now let's give women that same leeway as well. Except for the fact that that doesn't work very well with the normal man's psyche. By nature, men don't desire for their women to sleep with other men than them. That's nature. Is there anything bad with that? Well, it's bad if you believe that you as a man should be allowed to sleep with whoever you want, whenever you want, on a consistent, continual basis, meaning complete sexual freedom, not a closed relationship as we talk about on this channel. Closed relationships, okay, that's important, but he's talking about open. If men are allowed, then women should be allowed too. Okay, but what has happened was, according to this guy, what he's saying is that we closed the relationship, meaning we were told women that they shouldn't sleep around. And then society has now told men to not sleep around. And interestingly enough, you know where this comes from? This actually comes from women taking more control over society, to be honest. 60 years ago, guess what happened 60 years ago? This feminist movement basically got its momentum and exponential growth. And what is the result? The result is that women want men to be monogamous. and women have a stronger voice in the home, and women are not going to take the beating anymore that they've been taking for hundreds and thousands of years, and the blame that they've been suffering through. Okay, women have had an extremely difficult time for thousands of years. Okay, and for men to basically they think it's easier on women to actually allow them, okay, to go out and sleep with whoever they want. Is that going to make women's lives easier? That's that's ignorance in terms of a woman's nature, because women at their core only desire to worship one man. Women at their core only desire to worship one man. Okay? Men are wired for multiple women. Women are wired for one man. Okay, so that's nature. And to basically say that, you know what, we should allow women to sleep around with whoever they want, whenever they want, which they will do, by the way, if they are burdened, i.e. masculine. The definition of masculinity and femininity on the Women of High Value channel is that a woman who's masculine is burdened. She has issues. She has baggage. She has stuff that needs to be resolved. She's trying to be disciplined and focused in order for her to overcome her issues and problems, etc., etc., etc. Burdened. A feminine woman is unburdened, not having to worry about anything, being able to be carefree and enjoy her life and be with, enjoy company with other women very often, okay? Femininity doesn't really spend that much time with men. Masculine women spend a lot of time with men. Feminine women enjoy women's company. Very interesting how that works. And basically, understand that more masculine a woman becomes, the more she desires to have multiple partners. Why? Because masculinity, okay, masculine men by nature desire multiple partners. So a masculine woman desires multiple partners because she is burdened. No other reason. So the question is, do we want women to be burdened for the rest of eternity? If that's the case, then maybe women are wired to have multiple partners. Except for the fact that that goes completely against their nature. Completely. Okay? So what are we trying to do here? Well, we're trying to unburden women. The more we unburden women, the more they get locked in and obsessed with one man. Because that's femininity. So feminine men, when you take it to the other extreme, feminine men begin to also have what is called one-itis, which is basically means that they can only manage one woman and they only want one woman, and that woman is his everything. Okay? Except for the fact that feminine men don't do very well in the sexual marketplace. Feminine men is kind of yucky. Women are not attracted to feminine men, especially not if the guy is interested in her and has one-itis towards her. Then she's like, there's something wrong with this picture. I don't know what it is, but I don't want this guy. Okay? If there might be another feminine man, maybe a feminine man who's taken. I might want that. The more masculine a woman is, the more feminine of a guy she'll want. Because she can trust him. Because he has one-itis, and so he'll never leave her. Right? But at the core, in her heart, she wants a masculine man, because a masculine man has the capacity to unburden her and allow her to return back to her nature, which is femininity. This system that we teach on this channel and on the Men of High Value channel, it is so simple to understand. And this guy, unfortunately, he's got a half-truth. Oh, it's so close, but you're completely wrong, dude. Okay, let's keep going with the video. It's ridiculous to basically say that, oh, the solution to monogamy not working is women should sleep around with as many men as possible, because that will make everyone happy. The other one, So the question is, do we allow men to sleep around with whoever they want? Okay, let's go back to the 60s or 50s or 2,000 years ago with men sleeping around with everyone, and then let's blame women for wanting to sleep around with other people. How could you? How could you? It's ridiculous. She's burdened. She's burdened by you sleeping around with other people. So obviously she'll want to sleep with other people, and then when she does, you want to punish her when you did in the. It's hypocritical what men have been doing all this time.
And we put monogamous sexual commitment at the heart of all relationships,
Sexual commitment is crucial. Monogamous sexual commitment? We're going to talk about that.
Long-term commitment. It's all marriages, and we have watched. We should now be able to recognize the consequences of that, which are a lot of short-term relationships, a lot of divorce.
Short-term relationships, a lot of divorce. Okay. Short-term relationships will automatically happen if women sleep around with a bunch of guys. Why? Because she is wired to be with only one guy, and so she keeps having serial monogamy to find that one guy. But the problem is that each guy becomes worse and worse and worse over time, because the more people she sleeps with, the harder it is, or the more burdened she becomes. The more burdened she becomes, the more masculine she becomes. The more masculine she becomes, the lesser of value man she gets, right? Because she's masculine, she's going to be attracted to feminine guys, right? And attracted, when I say attracted, it's just basically that's who she ends up with. It's not necessarily that she's very sexually attracted, okay? Because she's not. She's attracted maybe more to the potential. Okay, so like when my wife married me, she was quite masculine in many ways, and I was very feminine compared to what I am today, and I'm still quite feminine. It is what it is, and it's a journey, right? But back then, 11 years ago, I was quite feminine, she was masculine, but she saw the potential in me. How I was a big thinker, how I was a big thinker, and how I wanted, she knew that I could provide the lifestyle and the life that she desired, okay? So she took a chance on me. And in many ways, this is what masculine women do in feminine men. They take a chance on them, and hopefully he's going to turn out to be amazing. But they're not attracted to them that much. Well, at least she was before the marriage, but after we got married, it's just disappeared immediately. Crazy, but it's not her that's crazy. It's just monogamy is the way it is. And that's what he's talking about. Short-term relationships, a lot of divorce. Why? Because people fall out of love. And is that because they didn't find the right person? No. It is because monogamy is designed that way by default. That women fall out of love. Why? Because women are wired to be with men who have multiple women. Because this has happened from the beginning of time until today, like he said, until 60 years ago, men have slept with multiple women, which has increased the value, okay? Not necessarily though, like in terms of, it's horrible men should not be looked at as valuable if they sleep around with multiple women. But a woman's brain doesn't rationalize that, okay? She just sees a guy who sleeps around with a lot of women, and she immediately becomes attracted to it with her hind brain. This is how you're wired. It is what it is. But eventually, which is the reason why I say on this channel that female nature is a male science. Because in many ways, men have to come to the rescue to make sure that you don't sleep with guys that are bad for you. Because you will. If men keep on improving their ways of seducing women and then discarding them once they're done with them. Because men are improving in that regard because of internet, because of information, because they are beginning to understand all this information about female nature that is readily accessible for anyone who's, a horny little bitch. And I'm not talking about women, I'm talking about guys, okay? Who suck. but they're learning how to seduce women, and they basically spend all of their days figuring out how they can have sex with someone. And how are they able to do that? Oh, because of big government. Why, might you say? Because big government provides for losers like that. Oh, you can't have a job? Oh, that's okay. Here's a check. Enjoy. Bye. They get the check, and they spend all of their time figuring out how they can sleep with as many women as possible and screw them over. And guess what? They get good at it. They get experience. And they're losers. And so women now become involved with those guys, emotionally involved, I might add, and since they're actually good at it from a seduction point of view and also in sexual regards, because if they've had a lot of sex and they've done it with a lot of different women, they kind of know what to do and when to do it and all that crap, which is good if you're in a lifelong committed relationship, but absolutely horrible if you're a player because you destroy women's lives. And so what ends up happening is that these women become emotionally involved, and then the guy leaves because the woman became difficult. The woman was crazy. Well, you know why she was crazy? Because you suck. Because the guy sucked. Women are merely a reflection of the man that they're with. So if the woman is fantastic, it is a reflection of the man that she's with. It is what it is, women. This is how it functions. And so we know how it is. Yeah, so the divorce and all the short-term relationships, what he's proposing is not going to improve things, by the way. It's still going to be short-term relationships and maybe one long-term relationship where two people are poly together, meaning that they're allowing each other to have sex with whoever they want, you know, whenever they want, as long as they're having open communication about it. Yuck. It's not the way things were designed to be. What about the kids? Okay? What if everyone did that? Billions of people were living poly. Okay? Women get to sleep around with whoever, men get to sleep around with whoever. What's the point of even getting married at that point? What's the point of even having kids? And how do you know that they're your kids? Like, if everyone is rich, is it a big deal? It doesn't look like it's a big deal, but it is a big deal because the woman will always feel like something's missing. She won't be worshiping anyone. She will be obsessed with something, but she'll be fidgeting about, why do I feel the way I feel? Okay? And she'll be like torn between this guy who's trying to get her to come with him in that direction, and then she has a family right here with the guy that's she kind of lost feelings for, obviously, because she's obsessed only about one person at a time, but he's the provider. And then she's torn between, should I go with the new guy or should I stay with this guy that I promised that I would stay with, and blah, blah, blah. How are the kids benefiting from poly? They don't. So, but let's keep going.
Because monogamy is ridiculous, and people aren't any good at it. They're not wired for it. We didn't evolve to be. It's not natural. Ridiculous. And
monogamy is ridiculous. People aren't any good at it. Well, it's because we're not wired for it. Just like he says, we're not wired for it.
People aren't any good at it. They're not wired for it. We didn't evolve to be.
We didn't evolve to be. Okay, interesting.
Not natural.
It's unnatural, and it places a tremendous strain on our marriages and our long-term commitments to expect them to be effortlessly monogamous. So, do we agree? Yes, we definitely do agree. Monogamy is unnatural, especially for men. Okay? Now, you'd think that that's the main reason why I teach what I teach on my channel. It's not. The main reason why I teach what I teach on this channel is because the way that monogamy is structured today is unnatural for women and children. Okay? It's women are fish out of water in the current circumstance where one man marries one woman. The woman is going to struggle in that relationship hardcore. Okay? What you've seen is that now, because of the double what has happened over time is that government has become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. What happens when government becomes extremely big? They begin to tax people a lot, and all sorts of different taxes, because that's what government does. Okay, they want to force people to become equal, so they basically take from those that have and give it to those that don't have it. But the interesting thing is that the ones that have actually invest the money and build things, while those that have not, well, they don't build things. So we end up, the more we do that type of thing, the more destructive society is going to be, because people are getting something for nothing, and that's not a good principle to live by. If you get something for nothing, then you'll be entitled, and you'll think that you expect it, and you're like, why am I not getting it? So we're creating a lot of guys who suck because they're entitled and they expect that they should be receiving stuff, so they're basically allowed to remain in their femininity. And women are basically being provided for by the government instead of being provided for by a man of high value. Sometimes a man of low value. But it is better that women are provided for by men. But the problem is, when government becomes this big, and the only reason why government has become this big, by the way, is because women don't trust men. You see, it's men's fault that government is huge. If men had taken care of women and been trustworthy and actually been good fathers and husbands, then the government would have remained small. And we wouldn't have had that much taxes, and we wouldn't have all these money printing problems that's going on today, and the extreme amounts of increase in prices that we're going to have in the next 10 years. That wouldn't have happened if men had been good fathers and husbands. But because they haven't, and because men have been sleeping around with women in a bad way, women don't trust men. And when women don't trust men, they either get their own job, or because they're not wired to be working 40 flippin' hours a day or a week for a boss, they choose to stay at home and receive, government spending, basically, to survive. So you end up with this hodgepodge of a ridiculous society where things aren't working very well. Okay, and it's not really, it's gonna get better long term, but in the short term, it's not really good what's going on these days. But anyway, all of this has happened because of monogamy. Because men aren't wired for it, but also women aren't wired for it, because they're designed to be with women. Women need women. Okay, because there's a lot of information I have on this channel about exactly that. But I agree with this guy in terms of the unnatural, and it's not how we're wired.
And it places a tremendous strain on our marriages and our long-term commitments to expect them to be effortlessly monogamous. Because what we've said is, if you're in love, you won't want to have sex with anybody else. And what we need to tell people is that if you're in love, you can make a monogamous commitment and you will refrain from having sex with other people, but you will still...
Okay, so he's trying to be funny here, but what I wanted to say about that, we've said if you're in love, you shouldn't, or you won't want to have sex with someone else. Well, men are wired to do so, but because they burden their women are also masculine, because they're so burdened by all the taxes, by their man not providing properly, by having too many kids, by all of the responsibilities that they put on themselves because the man refuses to take upon himself responsibility. So the woman becomes burdened, so she desires to have sex with other people as well, as I've explained earlier in the video. But he's basically saying, he's pretending, or he's putting it as if being in love in a monogamous marriage is the norm. It's not the norm. Being in love is something you are for a few months, maximum a year or two, in the beginning of a relationship. After that, you fall out of love and you stay out of love for the rest of your life. That is normal. That is nature in monogamy. It's extremely sad. But for him to say that if you're in love, you won't want to have sex with anyone else, well, the fact is no one is in love in monogamous marriages after 1 to 2 years. Sorry to pop that bubble, sweetie, but that's just the way it is. It sucks, but ask any monogamous couple, okay? Ask 1,000 marriages and do it when they're separated from each other, okay? Like it actually is more effective when you talk to men about it, because women are not going to be honest about it, because they want everyone to believe that they're in love and everything is wonderful, hunky-dory. And you just look at Instagram and you'll think that all relationships are amazing. Oh, I just want to get married because they look so cute together, blah, blah, blah. No, they don't. And if they do, it's because they're putting on a show. Why? For status. Just like any other people put up fancy cars and nice homes and traveling and all that stuff. Why do you think they do that? Do you think that they're happy and excited all of the time, those people that put up those ads or put up those pictures of them being all over the place? They do it for status. And why do people want to do that for status? Because they want to be important. This is a core part of our nature, but wanting to be very important. Why do you think the acronym VIP came out? Is because it resonates with everyone. Everyone wants to be very important, right? So this is the reason why people put out those kind of pictures of, like, you know, Lamborghinis and all stuff. Yeah, maybe it's fun. The things that they're doing is fun, but their relationships are crap. And if you don't know, relationships is the key for joy, bliss, and happiness. So no matter how much money you have, your relationships can still be crap. If you've noticed, from a technological standpoint, science has come extremely far. Like, we can literally soon send people to Mars and out to outer space. And yet we can't figure out how to get a woman and a man to be in love and stay in love for the rest of their lives. What's up with that? That's ridiculous. Right? So what I'm saying is, this guy is putting it in the wrong manner, because no one is in love in a monogamous marriage after the first 2 years. And if they are, it's like small glimpses here and there, sometimes. When other women flirt with the husband and the husband politely says no, the woman is like, oh my gosh, I'm with an amazing husband, and blah, 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 blah. Or the husband is a leader, or he's a pastor at the church, and he gets all attention, everyone's looking at him, and then the wife is like, oh my gosh, my man is so nice up there, blah, 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 blah. Do you understand what I mean? They're like glimpses. When guys are famous or in leadership positions, or girls flirt with them and the guy politely says no, those are the times when women are like, wow. Or other times when he suddenly have come home with a lot of cash, a lot of money, he won big in some project, or, being an entrepreneur, and suddenly they've got a lot of money. The woman is like fired up outside her brain, because it allows her the lifestyle that she knows that she belongs to. Then she could be in love with her husband for short spurts, but 99% of the time, the woman is gonna feel nothing for her man, other than, you're my best friend. You're my best friend, and I'm glad I have you. Give me a hug. That's it. And if you don't know this, it's because you've never been married, or you've never been in a long-term relationship. Okay? You might love each other very much, but you're not in love. Just had to clarify this one. There is a solution, though, because we know on this channel how to fall in love and how to stay in love forever. And it's a scientific approach to it that no one else has. No one else has. I've not found it anywhere else. You'll find it right here. Make sure you're subscribed.
That is, if you're in love, you won't want to have sex with anybody else. And what we need to tell people is that if you're in love, you can make a monogamous commitment and you will refrain from having sex with other people, but you will still desperately want to fuck the shit out of other people. But people understand love means I don't want to fuck other people, because of these misconceptions pumped into people's heads about romance and love and what it means.
Do you see what I just explained? This is femininity through feminism that has gotten that has put its mark on society, if you will. Femininity believes in romance. Roman? Interesting. Where do we get monogamy from? Roman Empire, romance, okay? I'm not against the word, okay? I'm not going to denigrate it and shut it off for you forever, but that's where it comes from, okay? So just so you know, romance, love, all those things of monogamous commitment, which is in essence, which is really what women are doing. That's monogamy, because they only have one man, right? But that's not what women are wired for. They're wired to be with other women who are their best friends, who together are monogamous towards one man. Does that make sense? So they're still monogamous in a sense. And that's what I'm saying, is that it's feminine principles that have basically put its mark on society today. Big government is a feminine principle. Okay, it's not a principle, but it's a feminine trait. Socialism is a feminine trait. Why? Because we want to make everyone equal, right? No one should be left behind. That's kind of like a mother, right? She doesn't want to leave any of her kids behind. Everyone should be treated equally, blah, blah, blah. Socialism is a feminine thing. Capitalism is a masculine thing. You see men who desire socialism, 100% of the time they're going to be feminine. 100% of the time. And they're not going to be able to control their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Masculine men, however, all desire capitalism. So you got to understand how this is not a political channel, really. It will be, eventually. But I'm explaining to you guys how the world works. Understand the woman, you'll understand the world. This is what's happening today. But I'm just basically explaining that romance and love, and the way that romance and love should be, comes from a feminine brain type of mindset. And we've basically given that, or women have given that, but it's not really their fault. It's men's fault for being horrible husbands and fathers, and women not trusting them. So women want to take over, and when they take over, it's their rules that apply. And those rules don't really work very well for the majority of, or the entire population, because it brings forth monogamy. And monogamy sucks and doesn't work and is unnatural, exactly like this guy says. Does that make sense?
And so they meet somebody else that they're attracted to, and they're attracted to this other person. They go, I must not be in love with my partner anymore, otherwise I wouldn't be attracted to this person.
This is how women function. Bro, get with the program. This is how women are wired. This guy has probably been in the space of relationships and love and all that stuff for 20 flippin' plus years. And he still doesn't understand female nature. Why do you think that is? It's because he's with a masculine woman, most probably, and because he's extremely feminine as well. Okay? That's the only reason. Because they don't manage to they give up on trying to figure out how we're actually wired. It's really sad because they have a voice, and these guys have like 3 million views and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know, with my 100. That's hilarious.
Or they feel threatened when their partners are attracted to other people, as if, it makes them feel insecure. And we just need to get past that.
So he's trying to basically convince women that you just need to get past that aspect of wanting to be with one person. Just let him sleep around, because you're going to be able to sleep around. And if you sleep around with a lot of women, and you teach a lot of women to sleep around too, that's going to make it easier for us low-value men to sleep around with other people. Do you understand what I mean? Like, this is sick. Okay? To try and convince women, because that's really what he's trying to do. Men are going to do their own thing anyway. This is him trying to tell women that monogamy is ridiculous. But that is how you're wired. You're wired for monogamy. It's a feminine way of thinking. And monogamy for you is being with one man, and you're wired to be with other women who is together being with one man. But there needs to be harmony amongst you guys, right? Amongst you women. But it's not your fault if there's no harmony, because that's always the man's fault. Okay, so it's really sad when guys are basically telling people to sleep around. It's horrible for the entire society, because it burdens women, and when you burden women, what happens? You get burdened kids. Kids that are not receiving the attention that they deserve. Kids that are not getting the love that they deserve. Domestic violence. And when I say domestic violence, not necessarily what happened in the past when the man hit women, although that is also common, because when men are feminine, they can't control their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, and they get easily offended, and so they actually beat up their women, which we're kind of moving back towards to a little bit more over time these days, which is very scary. But when I talk about domestic violence in terms of this, when you burden a woman, she will become violent with her kids. She's not going to admit to that, right? But that's a problem. It's a huge problem in society. But, you know, even like hitting kids on the butt, right? Spanking. Like that was normal in the past, right? But we know that that's not good. Like we know that that doesn't. It's like forcing kids who have done things not of their own will, but because emotions happen to them. And when emotions happen to them, femininity, which is what kids are, they respond to that, and then they do the emotion, like they do the thing that the emotion told them to do. So to blame a child, meaning through violence, through hitting the child, is ridiculous. And it's not good for that child's psyche. Do you get what I'm saying here? The more we burden women, the more likely it is that she's going to burden her kids. The less we burden women, the more control they have over their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, which is amazing, okay? When necessary. But in many ways, women are amazing in such a way that they don't need. When they're unburdened, they don't need to control their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors because their thoughts immediately lead them towards doing good, towards doing the right thing. Women are amazingly designed that way. I love women like that. That's how they're wired. Okay, let's finish up.
And we talk about monogamy the way we talk about virginity, that you're monogamous until you fuck somebody else, and then you ruined it. You popped your monogamy hymen and destroyed your monogamous relationship.
And in many ways, yes. Because as a man, you should be able to control yourself. Control yourself as a man. Okay, now men should be more understanding towards women if they sleep around. Oh, but Joseph, you're now being hypocritical because you're saying that, No, what I'm saying is that if men actually did the right thing and they actually, became better and improved and understood the woman, their woman wouldn't sleep with anyone else. Okay? If a man understands female nature, his woman is not going to sleep with anyone else because he's going to be part of the minority who actually understands her. And if he understands her, she's not going to sleep around. No matter how much he's attracted to other guys, she's always going to come home to the guy who understands her and who allows her to vent. Okay? Because very often women only cheat because their man is not emotionally available to them. It's not just because, the sex doesn't work very well and all that stuff. Although that could be a reason. But the biggest reason, 80% of all cheating happens because the man blames his woman and he doesn't hear her out. And he's emotionally unavailable because of blame. And so a woman ends up beginning to communicate with another guy, and then one thing leads to another over a long period of time. This is how women cheat. And fortunately, women cheat differently than men do, so men actually have the ability to prevent women from sleeping with other people because women are wired to be monogamous if they're unburdened. Oh my gosh. The principles that I teach on this channel, it's flippin' amazing. Make sure you subscribe.
We need to talk about monogamy when we talk about sobriety, which you can be monogamous and fall off the wagon and then sober back up. You can monogamous back up and get back on the wagon. And the truth of the matter is that if you're with somebody for 40, 50 years and they only cheated on you a few times, they were good at being monogamous, not bad at being monogamous.
I don't agree, actually. But that is the norm. That is common. But I completely disagree. Because as a man who has never cheated on my wife, okay? You don't need to as a man. If you're able to control your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, there is no reason why you should do anything behind her back. Why? Because you don't want to ruin what you have. And you also don't want to cause her to distrust you. Duh. Like, why would you sleep with someone else behind her back? Look at his name. Savage. Is that very trustworthy? And that's probably not his real name, but he probably called himself that in order for him for marketing purposes. No offense to Dan Savage. It's just that I haven't studied who this guy truly is, but I'm beginning to read between the lines. This is not good, okay? This is basically making excuses for guys to go out and sleep with whoever they want. That's horrible, horrible advice, okay? Never, ever make an excuse for a man to go out and sleep around and then be excused for it because, oh, I'm not wired for it. You can always, as a man, you can go against your wiring. However, it's not going to be emotionally fulfilling, right? So monogamy doesn't work. I agree to that. But if you're going to be monogamous, be monogamous. If that's what is the expectation in your relationship. And never ever go behind someone's back and do something behind their back that, oh, I'm sorry because I couldn't control myself. That's ridiculous. And that's femininity. And in my opinion, women should leave if a man is disloyal like that. She should, okay? She should... I don't like it. I don't like it at all when men cheat. Because I know they're better than that. I know they have capacities beyond what they believe is possible. And when they cheat, they're basically giving up on their potential of controlling their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. And they're blaming. A man who doesn't blame his women or his wife will never cheat. Never. It's only the guys who blame who cheat. So I don't agree with what he's saying here. Although that's the norm, it's not acceptable. And men should stop and change, okay, and improve. And for you women, if you're in a circumstance where you cheat, in my opinion, it's not your fault. You were led to do that by your man who sucked, okay? Is that an excuse for you to go out and cheat? No, not at all. I'm just saying that if you have the capacity of being faithful, you would, and you will. And that's simply from my understanding of female nature. Okay, this is not, you know, I'm not giving women a free pass. I'm just basically saying that they won't cheat if the man acts the way he's supposed to act, or and applies the principles that are taught on my channel. 100% of the time, you apply the principles taught on my channel, she's not going to cheat on you. Simple as that. And women don't want to cheat. If they wanted to cheat, women would cheat a whole lot more, right? Like, do you understand how many guys write women on like dating apps? Do you understand the choices women have of sleeping with other guys? If they wanted to sleep with other guys, they could easily, and they could do it in 20 minutes if they wanted to, okay? It might not be with a high value man, obviously, but do you get what I'm saying here? Women don't cheat automatically. It's only men who do that, and men need to get better. I'm gonna almost finish.
Good at it. So I do think there needs to be some leeway, and a lot of...
Ew! Look at this guy.
Good at it. So I do think there needs to be some leeway.
Some leeway? No!
And a lot of really good, loving relationships are destroyed because somebody wants a little variety or isn't getting a need met and feels they have to step out, and it explodes the relationship. I'm conservative. I think that we should do what we can to preserve marriages and long-term relationships. And one way to do that is to encourage people to have more realistic attitudes about sexual exclusivity.
More realistic attitudes about sexual exclusivity. No, we just need to think bigger about men's potential of controlling their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, and being able to be an amazing example to their women of how an amazing relationship can look like. This is the Women of High Value channel. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.